Welcome back, everyone, to a little bit of a different type of video, more podcasty style. This is just something I really wanted to try for quite a while, just to see what engagement and things are looking like, and just to share my thoughts and opinions. And this one I wanted to talk about is that property investment won't make you financially free. And that might seem very, very counterintuitive considering I'm a property investment YouTuber. I'm just some person on the internet talks about property. But I've always believed fundamentally that property investment should not be the main gateway for you to become financially free. In fact, when I released my book back in the day in January earlier of this year, one of the first pages was that I said that property investment will not actually make you financially free. And that actually is a big statement to make because in this day and age with all the social media, all the property gurus, all the buyers agents promoting and advertising and marketing that buying a couple of properties will suddenly make you financially free, it's just not that accurate. Now, if you look at property investment over a 10 to 15 year time horizon, which is what most people will end up going through the journey of, and they buy and accumulate as many assets as possible, usually around 8 to 10 properties, they will sell down half of those assets and then pay the debt down with all the profits from the other properties to become financially free, quote unquote. And they'll have those rental income as their main source of income to be able to retire from property. But the truth is, when you do that, you're only going to have about $100,000 to $200,000 depending on how much properties you actually accumulate in terms of a future rental income. Now, of course, you'll have expenses related to the property to actually maintain them even after all your rental income, even after all the debt has been paid down. But it's a long time to actually become financially free, quote unquote, 10 to 15 years, right? That's the goal. Now, you may be wondering where I'm going with this. Am I saying not to invest in property? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you should be investing into property because it is one of the most key wealth drivers in Australia. Most laws are geared towards property investment. The way property in Australia is treated as a commodity is why you should be investing in property itself. However, if your only method to generating income and wealth is purely by investing into property, then I don't think you will achieve that quote unquote financial freedom in the minds of your own. When I think of property investment, I think that property is a powerful tool to build that wealth, but it's not a shortcut to financial freedom. It will put you in a much better financial position 15 years from now, but property alone will not make you reach that higher echelon, higher peak of, owning nice sports cars, having nice holidays constantly. It will just help you alleviate the pressure away from your 9 to 5 or your corporate life or your other jobs, right? But it won't necessarily make you financially free. I think the best way to actually create yourself a fulfilled life, a financially free life, is actually by starting companies or businesses or creating some sort of value that can generate income. Now, once again, that may seem like a really big risk, but it's actually not that big of a risk when you fundamentally think about it, right? Because you're spending 10 to 15 years building a property portfolio. In the same time, while investing in property using your 9 to 5 income or other income, you could also be building a business on the side, whether that's a small side hustle or whether you have a product, service, or idea that you can formulate into a business, try, fail, try again, and then produce value for people. When you create real value, that will generate income, and then you can use that income to scale your business, scale your property portfolio, and then continue to accumulate more and more wealth. That is what I truly believe will make you financially free. Property investment alone is not enough. And I feel like in today's day and age, because we are so geared towards property, Australia's economy is actually becoming less and less innovative, and it's a bit of a worry, right? We're becoming less diverse, we are less productive. Growth through property is partly done by immigration, high immigration, a lot of government spending, but the lack of productivity and business creation is more and more apparent. We have a lot of red tape around new construction when it comes to supply, hence property becomes an even more valuable asset. And the obsession of property has actually trapped our wealth in very unproductive assets. I think overall our real estate is around $11.6 trillion or something of that value. It's just quite insane. Prices are becoming more inflated, yields are becoming thinner, and debt is starting to dominate. Investors are all fighting for the same sort of properties and assets, which is fine because we're all trying to grow our wealth. But I really think that if you're investing in property to become financially free, you need to have a little bit of a reality check and say to yourself, hey, property will put me in a better position financially, but if I really want to be the upper echelon of people, I want to have wealth, freedom, and choice, then I really think building businesses, creating value for people around you, your family, friends, and the general public, that is what will truly make you rich, wealthy, and financially free. So instead of purely listening to buyer's agents who are forcing your capital and forcing you to constrain yourself with low yields of 2 to 3% and buy in blue chip apartments or capital cities, invest smart in property. Look for those good regional locations around 4 to 5% that have good historical growth, great economic diversity, and can get you good cash flowing properties. And then also on the side, use your disposable income, your extra income, to actually try business ideas. And especially if you're in the space of service-based business ideas, it is one of the easiest things to test, try, refine with a very low cost base. Like service-based businesses barely cost anything unless you're like a mechanic on the road or a plumber where you need tools and stuff. But if you're doing something in the space of consulting, information products, something like that, that's a really easy way to test, iterate, and try again. Of course, if you're in the products-based business, so you're creating a product and you need stock and inventory, that can be a lot more expensive. However, even then, there are methods to try ideas out without actually having to expend a lot of capital. So for those of you who listen to me, for those of you who follow my content, I'm not saying don't invest in property. I want you to invest in property, but I also want you to create a business, create value, and create income, which can then produce more income for you, and then use that money to actually go invest and buy hard assets like gold, property, ETF, stocks, and grow your wealth that way. I think that is a better way to become financially free, not to trap all your skills, assets into property alone, because then you're too over leveraged into one asset type, right? And above all, you should not be relying on property to make you financially free. Your skill sets, your mindsets, and your ability to create value in today's society is what will truly make you financially free, right? I believe that financial freedom comes from creation, not speculation. So I hope that makes it very clear as to where I stand with the whole property investment space. I think it's a great long-term hold. You buy, you hold assets, you let your wealth grow for you in the background. But in the meantime, I'm trying out new business ideas. I try out new things every day, and I try to create value for people around me. That is the only way that I believe that you can become truly financially free. Not through money alone, but through wealth, mind, and health. Hopefully you like this sort of podcasty style videos. I'm just trying out something new. I would like to share my opinions and thoughts because that's who I am. Till next time, thanks guys.